Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we actually saw some huge PlayStation and Sony leaks going on right now with one of their biggest companies. Now, this is kind of a big deal going on over here because PlayStation as a whole has been kind of on a really big restructuring route. If you guys have probably been seeing, there's been big layoffs confirmed by PlayStation. They also did lay off people such as people working at Bungie. As well, they've also kind of projected lower PlayStation 5 overall sales. They have a lot more kind of stalling when it comes to actual games being released in software throughout this year. We just literally saw even more bigger news in the PlayStation VR 2 getting completely halted, where they're not even making any more to go and sell. And as of right this second, there is even a bigger leak that came out from basically companies being almost taken out. We are having really big long-term issues with some of the PlayStation subsidiaries, and I want to go and highlight this and talk about this because right now this is some scary news. We got another big popular content creator, Disastrous, which I'm somewhat familiar with too as well, had some huge leaked emails we're going to go talk about discussing the future of a lot of things on PlayStation, and it is looking bad. So you guys will sit back, relax, and enjoy. Make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. We have the Twitter and Twitch stream down below in case you guys would like to go and follow. We have the Samsung giveaway and promotion going on too as well, #ad, and let's go and dive on into the video itself. So the big thing is going to go and pulling on for this video is on the Destiny 2 and Bungie. Now, as I'm sure you guys probably know based on my crazy hair, there is some crazy stuff always going on when it comes to these games. As of per recently, PlayStation's been going through a lot of big stuff, and even Bungie itself has been a part of this, where they have up to 8% of their staff that's been reportedly laid off a few months back, and right now even more layoffs are somewhat looming. And a lot of right now, these games that Bungie are working on are somewhat up in the air. Like right now, PlayStation's in a very big limbo. We saw huge cancellations on a lot of the bigger games. Last of Us multiplayer, for good example, and just a lot of other bigger things such as the Spider-Man multiplayer multiverse game. Right now, PlayStation, it seems like they're trying to stop the hemorrhaging of their funds and making sure things are actually being made and profitable, and they're not kind of blowing money on random things. And this is where things get intriguing because right now there's even more bigger stuff that's coming out from this. So high level is that if you guys don't know, Bungie was bought and somewhat partially taken over by PlayStation. They had one of those cool takeovers where they're like, hey, we'll let current leadership still be in charge. We'll let people work in there still be in charge. Everything will be fine. That's okay. That's cool. But the one bigger issue is that because they've got the acquisition already cleared for, they are technically a PlayStation subsidiary. So that can be changed very quickly. And usually whenever companies get taken over, people get fired, goals get changed, games get changed, long-term goals get changed, and also individual games that might be in the works might also get canceled. And as of right this second, Bungie is in that nice acquisition period where they're still cooking. They're still doing what they got to go and do. But right now, it seems like it's going bad. Right now, we know the actual state of Bungie and Destiny is kind of rough. Destiny 2 is not making as much money as PlayStation was expecting. The community is kind of falling down. People are not really excited for future expansions, and it kind of affects PlayStation as a whole. But this is where things get intriguing, because one of the more popular content creators in the Destiny sphere, Ezra actually had a chance to have this email discussing over here when it comes to PlayStation and Sony, discussing on these people actually visited the studio, they discussed it, and this is why I'm kind of bringing this up as of right this second, because this is very, very relevant on how PlayStation's interacting, how they're dealing with the companies, etc., etc. So without further ado, I'm going to go kind of let him go and partially take it away as I react to it as well.
I visited the Bungie studios.
And so this is starting off saying, I visited, he's going to read himself, but they visited the Bungie studios, they had meetings with the management, and they basically saw, I'll let it cook, I'll give mine chime in.
At meetings with the management, and I saw that employees working in the studios were highly motivated, showing great creativity, as well as an impressive knowledge of live services. However, I also felt that there was room for improvement from a business perspective, with regard to areas such as the use of business expenses and assuming accountability for development timelines. I hope to continue the dialogue and come up with some good solutions. Now, shortly after...
So is that a chance to go and kind of just be hey, we visited the studios and somewhat, if you guys want some more context, this is basically a really, really higher up, apparently, always take everything with a grain of salt, that's basically involved in the Sony, PlayStation, Bungie process. So they had a chance to dive into all these things in different parts of the company.
And hey there, I'm writing this on a throwaway. Please use this information to corroborate with other sources you may have. Internal perspective at Sony is very negative towards Bungie right right now. It is
basically saying, hey, if you're a higher up at Sony itself, like say like the big Japanese hub, which nothing against Japanese people in that terms, but just more of like they have a slightly different culture when it comes to how they deal with Americanized businesses, et cetera, where they're basically saying it's a very negative towards Bungie. It is seen as a failed investment. So they spent billions of dollars to get Bungie, and right now it's not turning a profit. Like, don't forget they have like actual studios, developers, 3D artists, community managers, and if they're not really making money on selling Destiny, and don't forget Destiny does have a very strong community, but at the same time, Destiny doesn't really have, like I would say, in my opinion, like the most long-term prospects. Like they do have Destiny 3, which is probably being worked on in the low, but right now Destiny 2 is not really turning a consistent profit. They have a lot of microtransactions, which is bad. For silver, for other stuff, for cosmetics. They also have the expansions, but a lot of the expansions aren't really getting too hyped on up. They're like 8 expansions in or something crazy like that. The introduction of new players is very hard, and I mean, I'm sure some people are enjoying the game, but it's not really a very lively game as of right this second. And live service is a big deal, but their live service is like so convoluted, you have to make it so it's like Fortnite. You download, you play the game, you have fun. Destiny is like you have to download, like you lose stuff, you have to do certain things, certain orders, you have to buy specific things, do specific things. It's kind of all over the place. It's like not the best live server. And they're basically trying to go and figure out how to recoup these losses, because you spend $4 billion on a company, you want to make that money back. And that's the rough part. They're saying one internal leader from the United States is fighting to take over the ship, while many others across the Pacific want a much harsher method. The former U.S. leader holds a lot of respect from overseas leadership, so it's likely he will get their way. That person's perspective is that there are many gluttonous executives at Bungie who are not doing their jobs and are hindering the organization. It is believed that the workers are skilled, but the leadership is unable to perform their duties. Basically saying really higher up in like the Sony American PlayStation studios is like, hey, I want to take this over. I see the potential. I want to let them cook. But the executives that are still on the board are basically losing money. They're like hemorrhaging money. They need to go and make profit. They're not doing good for Destiny. All the other brand new games that are coming out are maybe cool and hyped on up, but they need to do better. They need to make us money because we spent money to make money, and that's what we're supposed to do. And that's kind of like where a lot of the Japanese folks, I would say, in the Sony side are, where they want to do the traditional route of making money the proper way. And that's where sometimes the kind of back and forth, because that makes less unique games for us as consumers. And I do think Bungie's always done pretty well with the unique games in terms of their concepts. And they also, I think, had like a fighting game in the works and like another MMO, Marathon, Destiny 2. And that would kind of maybe tone down things a lot, which I don't like. As a consumer, I want to make sure that we're getting unique games and cool experiences. Like, I want that. I really want that. Part 2 of this is that I also want to have a better Destiny experience and make sure the game is actually well, because I kind of gave up on Destiny. I have a lot of friends who play Destiny streamers, whoever, and they all kind of gave up on the game too as well. Some popular creators are like, I have no interest in playing this game, maybe in the future, who knows, and it's just not a good vibe. But these are basically saying, like, we need to make money from Destiny, from the Sony perspective, and they just haven't yet so far.
As a failed investment,
so we can maybe skip ahead to some more of those parts on here too as well. But they're basically saying, yeah, right now Sony is very negative. They're saying that they're not happy. They're not saying that their leadership is unable to do all this type of stuff that they want to. Saying that Bungie is in a hard spot because pre-order numbers are lower than anticipated. And I apologize, I do not have the exact specific numbers, and Sony believes that the finances will not allow Bungie to avoid a takeover even with another round of layoffs, as that would cannibalize development in future revenue. And that basically was a big issue, or for a lot of them, they went and they stated, if Bungie cannot turn a profit or hit profit numbers, then Sony themselves, executives, will step in and take over the board and take over Bungie. Now, we don't know if this is going to be a good thing or not. Like, from the initial leaked email, they say, hey, these people are, like, incompetent and they're not good. So maybe at the end of the day, this would be nice. Like, if companies are basically always profit-driven, it could always lead to bad things. And maybe if Sony does a proper takeover, the executives could be like, hey, we don't have to make as much money because we don't have to prove ourselves. We can take a step back. We already bought the company. Like, we can kind of, like, Bungie's a good company. We can kind of give it a few months to let them cook and see what happens, which might be that at the end of the day best for, like, all the Bungie-based games, like Marathon, Destiny, and all the other things they're working on. But it also leads to a potential issue where some of these games might not even exist. So think Marathon. That might be completely different than what the actual idea is right now. And I do think Destiny is a good game, just needs a little bit more fine-tuning in terms of monetization. Like, I think the game's fun. I think the gunplay is fun. It's good. So I don't want that to be more toned down and normalized, like a Last of Us. I want to be fun. I want to be a Bungie Halo-type style game. And as well, there's a lot of these smaller tiered games. They might actually get, like, taken out. Like, it's kind of sad. They might just be like, hey, we don't want the funding anymore. We don't see the potential. But sometimes those small, like, 30, 50 people developer squads, that's where the potential is. That's where the games actually could be. And this is where it gets scary because Bungie right now might just be completely taken over. Now, once again, they did get bought out out, so they were probably anticipating it. But at the same time, like, this kind of just shows that a lot of PlayStation things are kind of like hemorrhaging money. They're not doing well, and Sony wants to step on in to make sure they can go do better. And that's pretty much about it for the emails. There's a little bit more kind of tied on in, basically saying like, hey, it's just saying that Sony wants to turn Des into a more profitable game, but they're also saying it might be a good thing because they might not like be as aggressive and might have a better monetization model, and they have more time to maybe work things better. So we have to go and see, but it does say teams for future titles will be gutted and reformed, and that's very scary to see. So give me your thoughts and comments and everything down below. Make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. Shout out to Tizzy. Hopefully I said that correctly too as well. We have the Samsung links for our sponsors if you guys want to check those on out. #ad, and I appreciate y'all for watching. So by the Twitch, you guys are bored. I appreciate you guys all for chilling.